Welcome, Stefan. Wish you were here.
Thank you very much. I wish I was there as well. But instead, I'm down here in Winnipeg, where I work actually for Symboyne Park Zoo. I'm the head of conservation research here at the zoo. And most of the research that we do here at the zoo is all focused really in the Arctic, and my research programs are based out of Churchill. So the core of it really surrounds polar bears and ring seals and harbor seals, which we see. And then this summer I was also up for a while doing beluga research as well, which was exciting for me. And then before I came to the zoo, I worked for Fisheries and Oceans Canada and did genetic analysis on different sorts of whales. So killer whales, beluga, narwhal, and bowhead whales, the Arctic whales. I've done projects on all of those species as well. So I have a broad knowledge of lots of whales and Hudson's Bay and the ecosystem. And so, yeah, I guess using that, I'll answer as many of the questions that I can that come in while we're all up and running here. Does that sound good?
That sounds great to me, and I think I've got the thumbs up all around in regards to everyone being able to hear you. So great voice. It's bellowing just like a teacher. So would you I'm just going to ask this just to begin things rolling. I'm assuming that you have been on the Churchill River during the summer when the belugas are here, and perhaps could you describe that first experience for you? Whether I know it's probably for work, but personally, was it a joy to experience belugas here in the Churchill estuary?
Yeah. So the first time I was on the river, I was actually doing ring seal work, and I was trying to, try and capture just all the whales coming up around. We had driven out into Button Bay, which is just around the corner, to set nets to catch seals and put blue transmitters on them, satellite transmitters. And as we were coming out into the mouth, there's a big kind of aggregation of beluga all feeding, and it was, you always get kind of the feeling the way a bat does in a cloud of mosquitoes, or a shark does in a school of fish, and you don't know where to look, and it's all so awesome that you end up just kind of swiveling around and around trying to get a good view of everything. So I probably had like 3 cameras with me, a GoPro and a Contour and a big camera for. I don't have any good pictures and I don't have any good video. You just watch it and it makes you a little bit queasy because I'm just trying to capture everything. So I've gotten a little bit better over time, but I still kind of have that same feeling where, there's so much going on and so amazing that you're not quite sure where to look at and what to focus on.
Oh, I certainly hear you there, Stefan. Just now it's probably my 40th day out here, and I've only picked up my own personal camera once, and I do have opportunities to actually take my own photos if I stopped, but I would have to stop staring at them in order to fiddle with my own equipment, and I just can't take my eyes away from them, so I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, it's funny when we're up in summer, there's just so much going on, and then we're trying to collect data at the same time about behavior. And then when we got back afterwards, myself and the other researcher I was with, we were both realized that we have no pictures of ourselves on the water, or like we even when one of them went, when my partner went out kayaking, we don't have any pictures of her in the boat with all these belugas around her because we were so focused on kind of either being in the moment or trying to capture data at the same time. So next year, that's my goal, to get a picture of me on the water.
Well, that sounds great. I have to, I'm just getting some feedback here, so I just have to pull the microphone away from my mouth when I speak, but make sure that I'm putting it next to the phone so you can hear me, Stefan. I'm receiving questions. I'm not sure if you are your end. Let me know if you are, otherwise I will keep asking the ones that I'm seeing on this iPad.
We can... Did you want to jump right into some of them already, or?
Yeah.
Then I don't mind if you ask them, and then just that way,
You know what would be easier for me right now is if you could just read them out and answer them, or incorporate them into your answer. How does that sound? And if there's anything... Okay, good. Well, I'm going to... so everyone that's listening to me, and I'm keeping the microphone away because I know it's booming, and I apologize for that. I'm going to... There's some questions that Stefan is receiving, so I'm going to, once again, press the cell phone onto the mic and just take it away, Stefan.
All right. Yeah, so we've got a few questions coming in, which is really great. One of the ones that I'm always excited about is when young biologists want to be biologists and marine biologists. So we got a question, I'm 11 and I want to be a marine biologist when I get older. What steps should I take to do that? And what are the best places to go for, or the best college or university to go for marine biology? So I can tell you kind of the steps that I think will put you in really great stead, but I think you should know that there's many paths that can take you to be a marine biologist, and really it's that kind of have that goal in mind and work hard and you'll get there. So mine, I have an interest in genetics. So when I was going through high school, I was making sure that I had good science grades, and then when I went to university, I did more and more genetics questions, and I asked kind of questions that were best answered with Arctic species or marine mammals. So, you know, belugas and many other marine mammals are really social, and you can use genetics to answer questions. Who's related to who and why they might be acting in a certain way. So that's kind of one path, but that's definitely not the only path. I know people who have actually started out and have fine arts degrees or computer degrees and have done something completely different than biology, but then used those skills to study whales or to help other biologists study whales. And then in terms of what are the best places to go, there's a number of great universities and colleges. The thing I like to do is look at who's studying the certain kind of animal that you really like, or who's asking kind of questions that you're really interested in, and then go and find what college or university they're teaching at, and use that to make your choice. So I'm going to go to the next question here. It's if belugas are still hunted by natives for food, will they learn to avoid boats? That's a really great question. And in some areas where there is hunting, the belugas don't approach the boats the way they do in the Churchill River and some other rivers in Manitoba. And that's one of the really super special things about Churchill is the beluga have learned that it's a safe area. They've got, boats out on the water, but they can come up and be curious about them, and they don't need to avoid the boats because it's a safe place, which is really great. And beluga are pretty smart too, so they'll be able to remember that, in a certain place like Churchill, they're able to go in and be around boats, but maybe in other communities further north where there is hunting of beluga, they'll know to not go close to boats in those areas. So, I have another question here. Do male beluga fight for females? And that's a question that I don't think anyone really has a good answer about for. We know that male belugas are bigger than female belugas, so a lot of times in other animals, when you see that size difference between, that usually means that the males are competing amongst themselves for females. So that's might be a clue. We also know that the social structure seems to be such that it looks like, males compete for females. We can tell this from kind of how big their, for lack of a better word, I guess, balls are. So they tend to have a bigger than, say, some other mammals' testes, and that usually indicates that there's some male competition as well. But really, I think we need some more research to really find that out for sure. A lot of other animals that have horns and tusks, you can see the scars, so you know that happens. So old male polar bears have lots of scars. Older narwhal have scars, and that's thought to be because that males are fighting for females. So, on to the next one here. Do beluga have kin-based pods like orcas, or are their pods more loosely bound together? And that's another really great question. We have a lot of ideas about how their pods are put together, but it's really a place where we need a lot more research as well. So there's been genetic research that seems to, or indicates that related belugas stick together over in estuaries, but also along the migration route. We think that they have more of what's called a fission-fusion society, where different groups form and break apart and reform over time. But really, we don't have a good understanding of it. The nice thing about killer whales is they have those big dorsal fins. They get nicks in them. They have distinctive coloration and eye patches, so you can look to see just visually what animals with what other animal, and are they with the same group year after year. And we don't have that sort of thing available for beluga, or at least not yet. I'll just keep volunteering to go up on the boats and take more and more pictures until we have a good photo catalog so we can start doing that. So we have a couple more questions that are asking about are beluga sociable in general, or are the ones in the estuary kind of more social and more habituated to humans? And so I touched on this a little bit more or before. It does seem that belugas in Churchill really know that they've placed, and they don't really have to worry about that. But they also have these great big brains, and they're really smart. So I think everyone talk to the guides up in Churchill, if you talk to other researchers, the general consensus is they probably know that Churchill is, and Steel River and Nelson River, there's not a lot of people in there that want to harm belugas, so they're pretty safe places. And then in other places throughout the Arctic, they'll be more wary of boats. So, how much of their vocalization do we understand? I don't understand any of their vocalizations. I think that
I'm with you there.
yeah, the kind of amazing thing about beluga is they have such a huge vocal repertoire. They have a number of different unique sounds, and then they, barks and whistles and coughs and grunts, and they have sounds that they make underwater and sounds that they make above water. And they can change that for different contexts. And so the ones that we know the most about are related to echolocation, the click trains, we have a pretty good idea that they're related to sensing, where fish are, where different things are in the object. But a lot of the other vocalizations, lots of researchers have spent lots of time kind of categorizing them into different groups and different call types. But when it comes down to what does this mean, I don't think anyone really has a good grasp on it, if we have any knowledge whatsoever. I think that's another great place for a young biologist and young marine biologist to start learning about, sound, about vocalization, to try and get at those sorts of questions. So, will beluga go silent during a long dive to conserve the air in their lungs? Again, these are amazing questions, and questions that we don't really have a good answer to. We know that when they're doing those big dives, a lot of times they're at the bottom foraging, so they're going to be having to make some sorts of sounds when they're down there. They're also going to be interacting with other beluga when they're diving. Lots of whales kind of work together to forage, but they would be adapted to be able to use all their vocal repertoire wherever they were. Again, I know there's been some really great research that's starting where people are putting, little microphones on deer and then on deer collars, and then letting the deer go and record kind of the environment and themselves. And then they'll know that, they can tell when they're chewing because you can hear the chomping sound. So maybe at some point we'll be able to put a suction cup tag or something on a beluga that when they go down, we can listen in on what they're doing under the water. So, would a beluga adopt an orphan baby beluga? You guys are just asking all the questions that I don't think anyone has an answer to. I know that, the nice thing is I'll write these down because then we can use genetics to try and see if we can get, there's some researchers that use the snot and mucus that comes out of the blowhole when whales exhale to get DNA, and then they can look at, different DNA-based questions, like who's related to who, using that. So if we had one of those, we might be able to just go over mums and calves and see which one might be adopted, but we don't really know at this point. It does seem like there's, I've heard from locals and guides that they think that there's or babysitting going on, so younger individuals, there'll be a group of younger individuals with, one adult or a couple adults. So it's possible, but we really just don't know. All right. When do beluga whales mate, and when are the babies born? So the belugas spend a nice summer in the estuaries, and then later this month and the next they'll start migrating to where they overwinter. And it's thought that probably in the winter and in the spring, while they're still far away from Churchill, is when the mating season is. And then they'll have those babies, and the babies will develop for about 14 months, I think, and then they'll have their baby. And a lot of times, it really depends on where in the Arctic you are. So there's lots of reports of baby beluga whales in the estuaries, like Churchill River estuary. And then if you go into the high Arctic, there's reports of beluga coming into the estuaries when they already have their babies. So they've already had them kind of out in cooler water, but then they come into the estuary. All right. So what are some of the other places that beluga whales live? So the beluga whales are amazing. I'll probably say that a million times. But all these Arctic whales, including belugas, really can move over amazing distances. So there's a few populations So in Alaska and Cook Inlet, there's a population that kind of sticks close. In the St. Lawrence estuary in Canada, almost down to the U.S. border, there's beluga, a small population of beluga that live there. So that's kind of the furthest south population. And then all throughout the Arctic, there's beluga. So Hudson's Bay, all along into Baffin Bay, if we go straight north from Hudson's Bay, on both sides of Greenland, across the Russian Arctic, and then into Alaska. And so there's some concentrated areas, but there's still beluga in these other places. And then there's wanderers. So there is, I think this year, maybe it was last year, there was beluga, like 2 or 3 beluga found, or observed, I guess, even further south, down into the kind of continental USA. So those ones that are really in weird places, they think they're just wandering ones, and not the start of a population, as it were. So, do beluga use the ridges on their backs to break ice above them? Yep, they do. So there's one of the kind of unique things about all the Arctic whales is they don't have fins on their back, and it's thought that they don't have those fins there because it'll get damaged when they're trying to break through ice. And so they're probably just breaking through, thin young ice, or fresh ice. They're not really thick, but they still can kind of push through it. Bowhead whales, which are huge, have a way of traveling under quite thick ice, up to 1 meter thick, and so they'll go under the ice, maybe where there's a place where they can sense that it's a bit more flexible, and they'll push it up until it cracks, but it won't have to break completely open. It'll just crack until there's kind of a cavity above the water, but below the ice, and then that'll open up and air will come in, and so they'll be able to breathe, even though if you're standing on the shore, you would just see 100% flat ice. You wouldn't even know that a bowhead had come up and taken a big thrust and then gone. So, yeah, so they're in the ice. We do see lots of scarring on beluga, and a lot of that we think is due to being in ice, whether they're kind of trying to break ice or they're pushing through ice. Not really sure when that occurs, but they will have scars from ice. All right. Man, it looks great out there. There's beluga so close and all around, and so jealous. Okay. So I was saying that belugas swim, or can swim a really a long way during the migration. And I know there's data there to figure out how far they swim on an average day, but I don't really know what it is. You can get a sense a little bit from the satellite tags. So there's satellite tags on beluga in the Churchill River estuary that were put on this year, and so I'll send out, or I'll send to Rick or Haley. We have a Twitter feed called @ArcticWhale RES Research, and so we post I post the track lines for the belugas that we have tags on there. So I downloaded the data for today and put that up if you want to go on and take a look at that. During the summer, the beluga aren't moving as much, but it's still kind of these daily fluctuations. So they'll come into the estuary, and then they'll go, 10 or 20 kilometers offshore. They might go all the way up the Seal River, which is, I don't know, about 60 kilometers north, and then come back. So they can travel quite a ways in quite a swift pace. But it really depends on what time of year it is and what they want to do. If there's lots of food and they're in foraging mode, they might just spend all day in the same place where there's lots of prey to eat. I'm just going to take a swig of water here.
Yeah, by all means, Stefan. Again, I have to coordinate my mic and put the phone up. I haven't, there's a few things going on in the boat here too, so there's times that I'm actually putting the microphone and the cell phone under a blanket so it doesn't get soaking wet, because we are starting to get rain here. It's not, we still have whales, that's the main thing, so I'm not hearing all of your answers, which I'm disappointed, but there's just a couple of too many things to juggle. Your answers are fabulous, thank you. I'm certainly learning things as well while you're chatting away, so this is an opportunity for you to have a couple of swigs of water. And there's still lots of questions, so I hope that's good for you. I think we've got another 20 plus minutes or so like we're saying, we're encouraging everyone to keep sending in some questions. The questions are amazing.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, it's too bad that everyone that had questions couldn't just kind of get a nice big grant to go and try and figure out the answer to them. Because there's more questions than one researcher could answer in an entire lifetime, I'm sure. So I'm sure you guys have seen lots of belugas with scars on the cam and when you're out there. We got a question about does molting actually eliminate some of those scars? And it really depends on how deep that scar actually is. So beluga will have lots of rake marks and kind of superficial sort of scars that will disappear within a molt. But then they'll also have scars that are much deeper, and those take longer to heal. And sometimes you'll see whales that look like they have, a divot in their back. That's just a scar that's been so deep that they've recovered from, that they'll just always have that kind of mark. And one of the great things about kind of whale research on dark-colored whales is you can see those scars. They stick around and you can really see them for a lot longer. Belugas are tough because scar tissue is white, or it gets grown over on a white background, so it makes it really hard to do some of the non-invasive research that you would do on other sorts of whales, which is photo ID and just identifying and tracking whales based on scar patterns. But the nice thing is, when I was up this spring, I was trying to take more pictures of scar patterns, and I think there's still lots of great questions around those scars. So we could look at things like, how long do wounds take to heal in belugas? Because you'll see animals that have, fresher wounds from the migration in, and then older ones. And if you could track kind of throughout the summer that healing process, you might get a sense of, how well belugas are adapted to dealing with these, swipes from polar bears, or, scars from ice, or, maybe rake marks from their friends. All right. So one of the questions I kind of skipped over here was to do with how far beluga can see underneath when they're underneath those the water. I think that there's not a lot of research, but the eyes of beluga are fairly similar to kind of human eyes. They're better at low light, they're better under the water, but really it's that clarity of the water that's really going to dictate how far you can see. So I think, I think yesterday there was a question about, how deep below can you see beluga in the water? And when I was doing kind of water quality and limnology sorts of research way long ago on, we had a little very technical scientific instrument called a Secchi disc, and all it was a little circle that was half black and half white on a string. And so you would just drop it in the water until you couldn't see the circle anymore, and then measure, and that was the Secchi depth, and that was the measure of visibility in the water. So I was thinking, when the question came up the other day, how deep are people seeing? Oh, if only we had a Secchi disc, we could just figure that out and have that answer. There was some research, so in order to count how many whales there are, the Fisheries and Oceans Canada will fly in airplanes above and have people on the airplane looking out to count whales. So one of the things you really need to know is, how many whales are you missing because they're too deep in the water. And so this was before they put on satellite transmitters that could measure the depth of the water. And so there was some research where the researchers cut out big outlines of beluga whales and narwhal, full-size versions in plywood, and painted them to look like them. And then they would sink them into the water at 1 meter and fly the plane over top and see if they could see them, and then 2 meters and 3 meters to find out where that level was. And they found in most areas in the Arctic, you can see a beluga whale from 1,000 feet when it's down to about 2 meters. And after 2 meters, it's just too deep to actually see them. So, that's kind of a water clarity issue that affects beluga as well as beluga researchers. All right. I am pausing to send a quick email because I'm not sure if the feed from my cell phone, which is streaming somewhere, is even streaming, but I'm getting a low battery on that, so that feed might stop at some point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's plugged in, but it's not that it doesn't seem to be charging fast as it's being used.
Okay. Well, if you wanna take care of that, Stefan, and I can do a little bit of chatting if that helps. Unless. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm just we're certainly experiencing the rain that was forecasted here. Thankfully, the locals I have on board are dressed for the occasion, gumboots and all. Warm woolen hat, which we call in Canada toques, spelled T-O-Q-U-E-S, toques. In New Zealand we call them beanies. What do you call them in the States? So that's a question for those people from United States. What do you call woolen warm hats? So yes, we've got rain forecasted, and it's certainly just pitter-pattering on our heads. Now, we did have a pod of belugas with us for pretty much the whole time that we've been out. I've just turned back to where we started with them. I kind of notice sometimes they travel with us, and if I get too far out of the area where we first found them, they actually turn back and head back to where they were. So I'm doing the same to try to be with them again. I'm wondering if there's any vocalizations as well that people are hearing, since we don't get it broadcasted up into the Zodiac. Well, I hope my voice isn't booming at the moment. I have got the microphone a little bit away from where I'm speaking, and I still have my cell phone attached to my ear and my foot steering the Yamaha 40 horsepower 4-stroke engine that just hums and purrs while we cruise on the Churchill estuary. Great questions, everybody. That's fantastic. So I'm hoping that we're still broadcasting and we're still able to hear Stefan.
The landline is the key line, so we're all good.
Excellent. Good to hear.
We just saw a question here that about why belugas are swimming upside down, and if it's something that only toothed whales do or baleen whales do it as well. Yeah, such great questions. We don't really know a lot about. So in seals, there was a paper that just came out that looked at kind of when seals swim upside down and when they swim upside right, as it were. I mean, they're in this three-dimensional environment, so I don't know if there's a upside right or an upside down. But when seals are swimming and they're looking for food that's underneath them, they swim upside down because their eyes are a bit more on the top of their head. And so they can stay straight and streamlined and aerodynamic or hydrodynamic when they're upside down and look at things underneath them or deeper in the water. And then when they're trying to forage on fish that are above them, then they would swim upside right. So they're looking up, looking more up. So whales are interesting because their eyes are on the sides of their heads, so that doesn't really make as much sense. You think maybe they should swim on their sides more often. But we've seen beluga whale lots swimming upside down. When I was in the high Arctic doing work on narwhal and killer whales, you could stand up on kind of high cliffs and you could see, when the water was clear, you could see narwhal swimming upside down all along kind of the point that we were. So they were just swimming for kilometers upside down. And there's been research where they put a suction cup, like critter cam essentially, on narwhal, and that was one of the first kind of scientific evidence, as it were, that they swim upside down, even though Inuit people have been knew this all along for forever. Researchers, they tend to like, seeing it themselves, I guess, for the best term. So, yeah, so beluga swim upside down. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because their melon and where they're broadcasting sound waves is more to the top of their head, so that gives them, it's basically the same idea as the eyes, except it's just echolocation. So that's why they swim upside down. It's when they're trying to really get a good look, a sound look at the things underneath of them. And then do the big baleen whales swim upside down? I would assume they do. I don't know how often they do or how much they do it, though. I think that's a great question. We need a bowhead whale cam that people can look in and see what's happening, maybe someday. So, I see there's a polar bear question here. Can polar bears catch adult belugas or only babies? So, beluga whales and whales are amazing. Polar bears are similarly amazing. So polar bears can take adult whales, but it has to be kind of a pretty special set of circumstances. And so where the observations of beluga whales are that do get, or where polar bears do get adult beluga whales are at entrapment. So that's when, for whatever reason, the ice freezes faster than the beluga that are there kind of realize it is, and they get trapped in a piece of water with ice for kilometers around them. And so they're really stuck in just one place, and they're forced to come up to breathe, usually at one or two places. And so this is, obviously a really dangerous place for beluga, because if it's early in the winter, they're not going to be able to forage as much, and they won't be able to stay in good condition. And then as it gets colder and colder, that area that they have to come up and breathe can get smaller and smaller. And then on top of all that, the polar bears, if they find these entrapments, are able somehow, some great feats of strength, to go in and pull beluga whales completely out and onto the ice. So, the short answer is there's lots of observations of polar bears trying to catch whales in open water. They seem to be a bit more successful with younger animals, but they'll try for anything. But it's really in entrapments in the winter, they're able to get full-grown belugas. Those are quite rare events, so that doesn't happen too often. So, do belugas give birth to more than one calf at a time? And how many times in their lives do they give birth on average? So, I don't think there's been any record of twins in belugas. They're just always a single calf. And so that evidence is from when there has been harvesting, and there is research along with that. They'll look at kind of, how many embryos, and it's always just been one, so we think it's just one. And then how many times do they give birth? We don't really know. Yet another great question that's pretty hard to find the answer to, because we're not able to follow a single female for her entire lifespan. And it wasn't until, fairly recently that people kind of came to a consensus of even how long belugas live. So there was lots of kind of back and forth in the literature about, does each line on their tooth equal 1 year, or does it equal 2 years? And then that, halves or doubles the lifespan. So lots of super great questions. So, are there specific pods that travel through Churchill? A great question. So, what we do know is there was some genetic research. So, one of the main ways we look at genetics in beluga is we look at a little piece of DNA that's only passed down from mothers to their offspring. So, male beluga don't pass it on to their young. So you can look at kind of maternal lineages through time. So because it's this continuous kind of mother to daughter sort of signature in the written in the genes. And so they've used this mitochondrial DNA to look at population structure in different areas, in belugas throughout the Arctic. And the interesting thing about the Churchill belugas was that over, the 5 years of sampling that they had, and they didn't have a lot of samples, but they all had the same maternal haplotype. So that suggests that it may not be the same pods that come back, or we suspect that the same pods do come back, but it may not be just one pod, but it could be that they're all distantly related. They're all coming from kind of one specific lineage. And this is where it would be really great to get more samples to find out if that was just because we didn't test very many, or the researchers weren't able to test very many beluga, or is there something even more amazing about the beluga in the Churchill estuary? Yeah. So excited about these questions. Does the water in the estuary differ in salt concentration from the ocean water? So, because it's an estuary, it is going to fluctuate with the tide, and there is going to be an area within that estuary where it's kind of intermediate between kind of what you would find out in Hudson's Bay, like full Hudson's Bay, and what you're going to find out, or what the salinity is going to be further upstream, maybe up near Mosquito Point, or if you go even further past Mosquito Point, then you're right into freshwater, just solid freshwater. So one of the kind of areas of research that's going on with from researchers at the University of Manitoba, they have a project that started up that's really going to look at how far the fresh water from all these rivers are going out into Hudson's Bay. And as part of that, we'll have a really great kind of map of how that salinity changes throughout, how the nutrients are differ in the estuary and outside, and what oxygen levels are in the estuary or outside of the estuary. Can beluga whales still come up for breath when it's raining hard? Yep, they can. They're amazing. I don't know if there's evidence of beluga whales around the boat right now in what looks to be like the rain, but they can. So even when they're coming up, they exhale so hard as part of that breath cycle that it really kind of pushes out all the water that might be on and around the blowhole, but it probably kind of buffers any raindrops that are coming down. So it'd have to be raining pretty hard for it to even get into the blowhole. But beluga are still there. We know that they can't swim out of the way of storms all the time. We know they can only submerge for a certain amount of time, and that time is shorter than an entire rainstorm. So from all those, I think we can all be pretty confident that they're perfectly fine in the rain, just like they're perfectly fine in, lots of ice or little ice, or in the beautiful kind of Churchill River as well. So why do you think they're interested in following the boat, especially when they hear musical instruments like the cello? So I think part of it is that beluga are super curious animals, and they're always learning about their environment, and so they're probably learning to be attracted to boats initially because it's a novel object and they're kind of making different sounds, or it's acting different than maybe different boats would. The beluga boat with the cam on it, and the boats that Sea North operates when people are snorkeling or when they're kayaking are probably acting different than a lot of the boats would be, say, in northern communities, or ships would, or different ships. So they're a new thing to investigate, and then once they investigate them, there's people on the boats that are making kind of sounds that will be transmitted through, like knocks, or cello music getting transferred through the zodiac itself. And then when you see them, you see behaviors like, they're just swim along in the prop wash behind the boat, and the bubbles and currents that come off the end of the boat. They seem to be pretty curious about those sorts of things as well. So, is it a nice massage on your head, or is it something that you're trying to figure out or they're trying to figure out what it is and how it fits into the big environment of the ocean. I don't really know. I don't think any of us knows why, but I think just that curiosity is what brings them close, and then trying to figure out what's going on and what it is probably keeps them around. You do see kind of lots of mouthing behaviors sometimes on the cameras, so maybe they're evaluating edibility or texture or some other things as well. It's really, I don't think there's a good answer.
We just like it, Stefan. We just love how they do it. It really makes for a very successful live beluga cam, that's for sure.
When I didn't catch the first part of that.
Oh, this is me trying to keep microphone at a distance on the cell phone. I was just saying we don't know why they do it, but we like it. We really appreciate their curiosity, and it makes for a very successful live beluga cam.
There's just so much. There's probably just so much going on in the brain of a beluga and the mind of a beluga. It would be great to know more, but right now we have little studies, but a lot of just pure enjoyment and good luck in being able to experience that. So I got a question. Has anyone attempted to swim with belugas like they do with dolphins, and are they dangerous? And that's a great question, and the short answer is you should go to Churchill and get a chance to go snorkel with the belugas and find out for yourself. No, they're really curious. People do swim with them in the Churchill River and in some of the other estuaries. The tour operators will take you out, and it's more getting dragged behind a boat a little bit, but that makes it so you're this really interesting object for belugas to investigate. So belugas will come right up, investigate you, and it's not dangerous at all. It's really one of those amazing, unique sort of experiences that you can have. So I'm just getting a message that says that it looks like all the time. I hope I've answered questions that people have. Thanks for sending them in, and thanks for letting me join in.
Oh, Stefan, it's been an absolute pleasure. Although I feel like I need to be an octopus to have a few more hands and arms. Really appreciate your very thorough answers, and if ever you need to retire, I think a radio announcer would be right up your alley. You've got the perfect radio voice. Interesting, soothing, dynamic, all in one voice. Next time, could you say that again?
Now I just need to pick up an accent.
See, now to me you have an accent because I'm from New Zealand. Well, thank you. I think the belugas were also listening in because they stuck around the boat the whole time you spoke. There was just a short gap where we didn't have any, but we've now got some glued to us stern once again. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge, and I like the fact there's a lot that we don't know. It just means that we've still got lots of work to do, and the mystery of the beluga remains, I think. It's kind of neat to have that.
I 100% agree. The time when we run out of questions, that's a bad sign. So great to have awesome and millions of awesome new questions to ask.
Absolutely, and just now I just got sprayed by one. A large male just surfaced, and the wind is pushing that spray towards the boat, so we all got blessed on here. Pretty special. This is a very unique experience being out here in the Churchill estuary. Well, thank you, Stefan, for joining us, and I hope to meet you sometime.
Yes, have a great rest of your tour and a nice dry place to go in afterwards.
We will. I'm just getting soaked by beluga breath. The rain had nothing against the beluga breath, I tell you. All right, we'll have a great evening, and we're going to pull out the hot chocolate and the chocolate chip cookies that I baked yesterday.
Excellent. All right, thanks a lot. Take care.
Great, all the best. Thank you.